Welcome back to another episode of Know Your Legacy. I'm your host, V, and today's guest is Max Stossel. Max is an award-winning poet, filmmaker, TEDx speaker, and the head of education at the Center of Humane Technology. His work has spread across 5 continents and has been viewed over 15 million times. Max, thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
No, most definitely. And I'm excited for some of the topics that we'll get into, because I think you've covered quite a lot in the time that you've been producing content. But for people who, I guess, may not know some of your work, some of the stuff that you do, I know there's some people listening from outside the US, and you said you hope to build a presence in some of those areas like London. So I thought it'd be best if you talk a little bit about, some of the earliest memories of your childhood, because I know for you that was a little bit more sheltered than maybe you'd hoped for.
Sure. More sheltered than I'd hoped for. Earliest memories of my childhood. I remember running around my bedroom playing sports with my dad, where there were diapers all over the hard, sharp things that would stop me from smashing my face, because I was apparently just a reckless ball playing child. And so they put diapers literally all over my room, and I have a memory of that. But no, I had a beautiful childhood, with like something a friend of mine named Ben talks about is I had love privilege, which I've had some financial privilege as well, but love privilege being, I think, maybe even more important than that, of parents who really loved and prioritized me. And I'm deeply grateful to have had that, and like the emotional capacity and stability that I think that has given me has served me so far and well in life. And I think we often think about financial privilege, which is something that gives people a leg up in certain ways, but I think love privilege too is something that I was blessed with, and something I think it's helpful to look at our own lives with, as a lot of people don't have that, and it creates deep-seated challenges. But so I had a beautiful childhood with parents who cared about me and grew up on the Upper West Side of New York. I was mostly not an artist back then. I was mostly kind of like a bro and a jock most of my life growing up. And it wasn't until I heard a poet named InQ perform, and I was just really struck at how powerfully his words resonated with me, and how powerfully rhyme and rhythm and poetry could be literally used as a tool for communication to get an idea from one place to the next. I didn't study poetry or haven't even read so much poetry. I'm getting more into it now as I'm being called a poet. But for me, it was really always about communication. What is the best way of getting these shreds of brilliance that I might be able to find from here to people? And rhyme and rhythm seems to be a really effective tool. Poetry seems to be an effective tool for doing that.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I want to get into some of the more creative work that you've done. But I think, the way you put love privilege is quite interesting, because I've never heard it put that way. And most people tend to talk about a story of something tragic that's happened to them, especially like within the home. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the place where inspiration comes from, because it seems like you've obviously created inspiring pieces of content without having to go through that typical kind of scenario. So how would you say your relationship with your parents is now, like in terms of because it was deep-seated and rooted coming from that positive place? What does it sort of look like now, all these years later?
So, I mean, it's great. I'm terrified of when they're going to die, and that makes me really sad if they're getting to be 71 and 72 now. And so I'm trying to spend a lot of time with them, not just because they're going to die, also because I care about them. But they, we have a positive relationship. I still live in New York most of the time, and I try to see them about once a week. And, I think like I've done a lot of self-work and become very aware of the different ways in which they messed me up. Like, dad made it very hard to feel my feelings and emotions. Mom absolutely made me self-critical and anxious. Like, yes, those two things happened. But I'm rooted in a place of like, they really did their best, and they cared so much, and they tried so hard, and I'll deal with what has come of me, like in the challenges that I have to face because of that. But net, like I feel so blessed to have had parents who cared that way and prioritized me so much.
Do you think some of
I
the
just,
no no
yes,
go on.
I like what you said of a lot of art coming out of like the pain of childhood, or working through trauma, and I think that's beautiful. But one thing that I've noticed, and I'm sure there are many categories, but 2 categories of art that I've noticed are, especially within the type of work that I do of like poetry, is I've noticed one kind, which is like like release my emotion on the stage. And if you've gone through that too, you can really relate to that and feel that, and you're feeling something, and that's powerful. And I think not as much in my feeling, and which is,
So it's just breaking up. The connection's just breaking up there a little bit.
and how, oh my God, like I found, and how can I take that and deliver it to you? And it's really, oh no.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, I just heard you say breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
Two, but two categories I've noticed. One of which is like I'm releasing a lot of emotion, and you're gonna feel what I'm feeling on stage, and maybe you've gone through something similar and can relate to that and connect to that, and that's beautiful. That's less often my work. More of mine is this other category, and again, I'm sure there are plenty more, but I've just noticed that there are at least these two of, hey, wow, like I found something. Like I have like discovered something about consciousness or the universe, or like something so beautiful, and I want to I want you to get this. Like I want to share this thing with you, and it's not about me on stage going through an emotional experience. It's about how can I deliver that kernel of beauty that I found and drop it with an audience. And more often that is my like that, I think that's a lot of what my work is that I'm trying to take that beauty that I find, and I'm trying to make it land in you in the same way that it landed in me. And that of course requires, like, at the very least, an understanding of pain and an empathy, because there's no one without the other. But I don't know that I don't think all art requires the suffering. What a great way of dealing with some of the suffering and the pain is by creating art out of it, but I don't think it's the only source.
No, of course, definitely. Where do you draw your inspiration from?
If I knew the answer to that, life would be a lot easier. But it's a different, a key that I've started to notice in myself is just to try to pay attention to when I get bodily chills about something, and take that as an opportunity to step away and start writing of like, ooh, like there's something here. And there's some poems that come out in 20 minutes and just like, oh my God, and this is perfect, and I don't want to touch it again. And others that you have to really sit with and workshop, and it's like, oh, I want to write something about this, and no, that's not quite right. And yes, the inspired ones really just feel like they come through, and some of them really just require trying to sculpt something, and they're sort of a different category in my mind. But if I knew exactly where the inspiration came from, my life would be a lot easier as a poet.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to pinpoint where creativity comes from, it because it's kind of, as you said, it's this ebb and flow type of thing. It's not just it's not an on and off switch.
Yeah.
It has its moments, and you have to capture it for what it is at that time before it comes back around. So where did poetry actually come in for you in the timeline of I guess your years of studying and then going through college?
So as like a young kid, I liked Shel Silverstein and things like that. But I really didn't write any poetry and didn't think of myself as a writer, as a creative, until probably about age 24, when I heard NQ, this poet, perform and started writing myself. Yeah, it was really like just hearing his delivery and just like having the chills and feeling like, wow, why did that stick with me so much? And then I was literally just trying to write and figure out about why I liked it so much. And the first two lines of what I wrote rhymed. And I was like, oh, all right, fuck it, I can do this. Like, let's give this a shot. And I finished that poem. And then the next day I saw him and I said, like, hey, I wrote something after you shared your poem. Like, do you want to hear it? And he was like, okay. And then I I read it for him, and he was like, well, you should consider pursuing this. This is powerful. And I was like, ooh, and that felt good. I feed on praise, artists, right? Oftentimes of feeding on that praise. And I would write here and there. It was really helpful, I think. Like, I still had a job. I was working in tech at the time. And I think there's a lot of narrative around, like, quit your job and follow your dream. And Mickey in many ways puts out messages like that. And I think there's tons of beauty in her messages. But for me and for artists, I think actually oftentimes it's really helpful to have something else, that is making you some money, that doesn't put the pressure on your art to make you all of the money and sustain you, because it allows you to keep the integrity of why you love what you're doing, and let that, write about what you want to write about, not let the thoughts of like, okay, what's the market here? How do I go about this? Not let those thoughts drive what you're creating. And so personally, I still, in another source of income that supplements my work as an artist, because I think that really frees me up to actually let the art be whatever I want it to be, and not worry about, okay, how am I going to go about this?
Yeah, I've heard you talk about that before, where the pressure can kind of seep in, and then you can easily make some choices that are, I guess, can endanger your authenticity, because it's like, oh, wherever the money is, because I'm running out of time, I need to pay the bills, and that kind of masks or shades the true authenticity of your work coming through, and it can be a little bit forced. I don't know. Have you ever had that experience where you felt like, I'm not quite happy with this piece of work. I'm not going to really put it out there.
Oh, most of it. Most of the work, I'm working through. I'm like, yeah, this isn't quite there. Yeah, for sure. Uh, I'd say it's the majority of the time that this isn't quite right. But I've even noticed, I've noticed in myself, still doing what I'm doing, it's so easy. And maybe this is competitive me, or being a man in today's world of where it's very easy for the thoughts to creep in of like, oh, how am I supposed to make this bigger? How is this going to make me okay, well, there's this route. Maybe I should be doing that because there's money. For me, it's not my primary. It is my, it's like 50-50 my source of income. But I'm not reliant solely on it. And if I were, I just can't even imagine that I'd be able to resist those thoughts, it would just be so easy to just get carried into this way of okay, how do I turn this into my job? And I think for most artists, we didn't start this for it to be the job. There's a meme I like that's do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life because, oh wait, you just turned your favorite hobby into a job. What the fuck were you thinking? And I feel that to be true of let's not forget why we're doing the things that we love. And just because we love them, that doesn't mean they have to be our job. And I think oftentimes if we're really good at it and we have a calling for it, it can turn into something where, great, it does make you some money and maybe it does turn into the job, but it's hard to really fend off the money thoughts. And I think it's helpful to have something else, hopefully something that you don't have to work too long on and that frees up your time, but that can at least supplement artistic income. I recommend that for artists and aspiring artists.
Is that what keeps you grounded?
I think also, in some ways, I think it keeps me more in the real world, because how many people are living an artist's life of not going into work every day and just when you're trying to be a voice for people, it can be tough if you're not living the way that a lot of people are living. So I think it is helpful in keeping connected to the way people are going through their routines and their lives. It can be easy to get disconnected if we separate entirely. But as I say that out loud, I think there are also benefits from, separating entirely, going into the woods and stepping away from all of it and seeing what perspective that shares. But yeah, for me, it's been working so far.
Yeah. Do you remember the first two lines of that poetry?
Yeah. I sit here and ponder the beauty of slam poetry, wonder the reason it so flows with me. And I was like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I'm onto something here. Yeah. No, it's like what you're saying before. It's about getting the message into the audience through through the right rhyme and rhythm, because it needs to be catchy in that sense, because there's a lot of stuff that sounds similar in this day and age. I think you've said before in one of the talks that you did that between 2003 and 2013 is the same amount of content that's made in 48 hours now, or something along those lines. And so it's
that was in 2013. I'm sure it's much more that is created now. But yeah, to stand out in this, and that's also online, especially why should people listen to this instead of literally everything else that is at their fingertips? That is the competitive base. And there are a lot of problems with the fact that that's the competitive base, and we have to be so extreme or so outrageous to grab the attention, and that filters into our process as well. But but net, there's so much that how do you stand out? And it was in this attention economy, rhyme and rhythm were a powerful tool. I think it was, I sit and ponder the beauty of slam poetry, wonder the reason it so flows with me, not on my tongue, but in my soul, it tickles, smiles inwardly. On one hand, there's delivery, the low, true voice we all believe and trust as truth that's plain to see since it was bellowed confidently. On the other, there's the words he speaks, linguistics crafted artfully, words bending, twisting playfully to show shared pain we link between. It leverages the poet's gift to make words stick in cluttered brains that can't quite fit the space for such complexity. That's all I remember off the top of my head. But that was like first one, the first one I'd written. It went on for longer.
Yeah. No, it sounds good because you've naturally got the rhythm there. Is that something that you had from the get go, like that natural flow of words?
I was a drummer growing up, so I think that does play into the natural rhythms, and I've always been musically inclined. Um, and that definitely there is a piece of it of like hearing, of like kind of thinking of words like a song, and does something belong there? Can I fit a couple more syllables here and have that sound good, or are we in a strange rhythmic place that doesn't really fit or feel like it's right? There's definitely a music to it.
Yeah. So where would you say is the line between, I guess, poetry or being a poet and a storyteller, or is it one and the same?
For me, for me, poetry is a mechanism for storytelling. Like it really is. I think a lot of poets wouldn't say that. I have a friend named Alice Frank who's a poet as well, and I asked her, I was like, "Oh, why's poetry matter to you?" And she said, "It's a way of effing the ineffable." And I liked that. I liked that a lot as a definition of poetry, of trying to say what is so difficult to be said. I think that's definitely what I try to do as a poet and as a storyteller. For me, there's not much difference between the two. I think people who study poetry itself more deeply might have a different answer. But for me, I sometimes struggle with the word poet, if that is the right one for me. But I'm trying to communicate. I'm trying to get things and ideas from here, trying to deliver. I'm a delivery man.
Yeah, exactly. No, trying to channel it through in the right way, basically. But
Yeah.
no, it makes a ton of sense. But I'm interested to know. Then you mentioned obviously there's a lot of noise on the internet, and it just keeps getting more and more and more as the days go by. But if someone's trying to build their brand or tell their own story or has a message to share, what would you say has worked for you in terms of breaking through the noise and being able to deliver the message successfully?
So I see there being kind of two trains of thought on this. And I started out, so my first video was like a very highly produced piece of content, Subway Love, which you can watch that one on YouTube. And I wanted to, break through all this. And I was like, why would anyone click on this compared to all of the things on the internet? I better like really craft this and make this awesome. And I went on online, was looking for videographers who were really good at taking the words of a message and adding visuals that didn't distract from it, but enhanced it further. I found someone named Matthew Friedel who did a video called "This Is Water," which is the David Foster Wallace speech. He turned that into a video that like did really well online and went viral and was just really well done. I called him. I got his assistant. I lied and was like, "Hey, I'm doing a thing with the Discovery Channel, and I wanted to see if Matt is available, but I can't give more information." And she was like, and I got through eventually. And he was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Hey, none of that was true. I have a poem I want to do for you, and I wanted to see if you'd work with it. Can I just recite this poem for you over the phone?" And he was like, "Okay." um, and I performed a poem for him, and he was like, "Wow, that was really powerful. So like, what do you want? What are you doing?" I was like, "I want to turn it into a video." He's like, "Do you have a budget?" I said, "I don't." He was like, "All right, just cover my flights from LA, and we'll do this." And at that time I was so naive and lucky, and because I at the time didn't realize that it was so rare to have somebody who would shoot, edit, direct, like he's the whole stack. And I didn't even know I thought everyone was the whole stack, and wasn't the case. And he was so talented and so grateful to work with him. But we put that out, that went viral, and I had like an initial thing that I could point to of like, look, I have a high quality bar of work. To be honest, I think in some ways steered me out into the world without all of those bells and whistles. And that wasn't like, that was insecurity, and of like, what people are going to judge me, people aren't going to think I'm good enough. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about like, document the process, just like go share everything. And like, if something hits, great. You never know what's going to resonate with people. It's not up to you what is valuable, it's up to people what is valuable. And so share everything and get that out. I have a complicated relationship with social media, and that doesn't work for me personally. Of just like, I have trouble with the nature of the storytelling, and some of that is insecurity. But I think both routes together are helpful. Like, try to have one really proud piece of content you can point people to, of like, hey, like I really worked hard on this and I feel great about it. And then also, yeah, you never know what's going to reach people. And so sharing as you go, I think, is a way of like just being on the game and doing the work and trying to build. But it can be an emotionally taxing process, especially because social media can be such a nightmare creatively.
Definitely. No, I wanted to ask you your opinion on a couple of things regarding social media, but we'll get into that in a second, because you touched on Subway Love, and I was actually going to bring that up because I found that to be quite inspiring, in the sense that the message was quite deep when you used obviously two individuals, male and female, as the props, so to speak, to deliver the message. But it was more about, maybe I'm wrong in saying this, you can correct me if I am, but about being present, and the fact that we're not present, we miss out on the opportunities that are around us. You packaged it in love, but it can be with anything. So where did the inspiration for that come in?
Yes, 100%. I'm so glad you said that, because it can feel like it's a love story, but it is much more than a love story. It's about waking up to the incredible amount of beauty and opportunity that's in front of us at every moment, but is so hard to see and pay attention to. But yeah, no, that was inspired. Like, I was waiting for the train at West 4th Street, and I was just like mad. It just wasn't coming, and I'm staring into the tunnel, and that's what we do. We stare into the tunnel, and it's just hot and sweaty and getting hotter and sweatier and more disgusting. And I'm just like frustrated and being, it's just not coming. Train's not coming. We live here now. This is our new home. Train's just not coming. And I just kind of was realizing how ridiculously angry I was, just like, because a train wasn't coming. And I took a deep breath, and I started trying to make eye contact with people. New Yorkers, we're not into eye contact. But yeah, and then I was like, oh, look at, like, what are we doing here? We're standing like, what's army of urban soldiers waiting for the train. And I was like, oh, that's a good line. Why don't I write that down? Urban soldiers waiting for the train. And then it flowed out. That one really came out in full in about 20 minutes, and I didn't touch it. Like, that was just like that one just downloaded and came, and it's to this day one of my favorites.
Yeah, I was going to ask you which one was your favorite, because you've performed a few, at least that I've seen online anyway. So I was going to say, are there any others that live up to the quality of that one for you?
For me, of like, that one definitely holds a special place in my heart. Yeah, you can't pick favorites of your kids, but there are definitely some others in different ways that resonate. I have one that's in my one-man show about my relationship with porn, which I think is quite good. I really love one about breaking up in the age of social media. Feels like a powerful one that's also in my show. Yeah, there's quite a few that are not online and haven't been performed, but are in the show, and I'm trying to figure out the right ways of spreading that I think that are similarly inspired. Not that any is one better or worse than another.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah. So, I mean, when did you know or feel like this is actually taking off, and I feel like, this is gaining some traction now, and I'm going to continue with this?
Yeah, there's like a lot of naivety along the way, I think, is the truth. It's like, but I was like, okay, I'm going to send Subway Love after it's done to everybody I know, and like, hopefully that'll spread and go. By the time I had written the email and ready to send, like, it had started to go viral, and I was like, oh, this is great. It's just happening. And then I was like, okay, maybe there's really something here. Like, I have a viral video. And in retrospect, like, that's like, I've learned that's not really how the industry works. It's like that, oh, like, one thing goes viral and then you have a career in this area. Like, no, it's not really how it works. And even to this day, people don't quite get what the performances are like from watching the videos. So like, it's a different thing. I don't get booked that often from the videos themselves. I get booked yeah, like I get booked for making videos for brands from the videos, but people don't necessarily make the connection. In a way that is really powerful from. And so it was like I thought,
So
okay, I just have to do this
sorry,
again if I
the
get
connect,
one more.
the
Oh,
connect, the
I
connection just
lose you again?
yeah, the connection just broke up a little bit. I think you said when people don't make the connection from there.
Yeah, they don't make the connection from, oh, these videos are he's gonna do something on we should bring him to perform, which is what it's really about for me. But I get hired to make videos for brands from those videos because they get, wow, these videos are amazing. We want something like this. And if I believe in the brand's message, then I can write a poetic script. But for me, it's yeah, it was naivety of like, okay, it's viral now, I should run with this. Maybe if I just have one more video that goes really far, that'll turn into something. Okay, let's do another one. And then Stop Making Murderers Famous was really like designed for the internet. I was like, okay, like that'll be good and that'll be a thing. But really, each time I'm sure it spread further seeds and went, but I didn't really know. I'm like still in some ways don't totally know. But I think really since these one-man shows have been so well received, um, that's when for me it became very clear of like, okay, like creating this container and doing an hour or so of poetry that strings poetry type comedy that sort of strings together and tells a cohesive story and just like shares these messages. Like this is something I'll be doing for a long time. And this is going to be a career, and the videos can feed that. And some things might need to go further, and videos will help them do that. But I'm going to be telling these stories, and these are different formats, and it seems to be going. But like, and Mickey talks about this, but like, I think a healthy amount of naivety is healthy in doing alternative careers and things, of just thinking like, well, okay, well, we're just going to do it. This is going to happen, and not understanding how much it really takes.
It's funny because yeah, no, definitely, because I think I always think back to when people talk about their journey and some of the milestones. I always think back to The Alchemist. I don't know if you've read that.
Yeah, yeah,
As you were talking, the thing that came to mind was the beginner's luck. In his journey of getting what he got at the start, it was because I guess the universe was pushing him to say, yeah, express more of this. I'm going to give you a little head start to make it feel like this is for you, and then you do the rest of the work yourself. At least I pointed you in the right direction now, and I see that in everyone's journey, and it's amazing because it's almost like a springboard, and then you have to keep yourself in the air, if that makes sense.
yeah. Um, it's I think it was definitely true for me, and I get the chills when reading The Alchemist. Like I really think it's like there's something there. I don't understand it, but there's something there. Of like, and then especially for that first video for Subway Love, the number of things that just like fell into place, despite the fact that I had no idea how to make a video, and like no, like, but just things worked out, dates that worked out. Like there was the videographer said the one thing I don't know how to do here is like I need a choreographer. And I was like, okay, I'll find a choreographer. And we ended up getting someone named Celia Ralston Hall, who's just like incredibly prestigious and so good. And I didn't process how hard it would be to normally book her. And she was like, I'll just book I'll book something with Vogue in New York, and that'll pay for my way going. And then we can just do it while I'm there. And like the dates all matched up. It just was so much serendipity that in retrospect would be ridiculous to plan for. But yeah, like when we're onto something, I think onto a calling, it seems like the universe opens up. I want to be careful with that because it feels like so much we're not very patient as a species, and I feel like especially in today's digital media world, when we talk about it of like, oh, the universe opens up for my calling, and like I feel like someone could hear that and think like, well, it's not opening up for mine, and like why not? And it opening up I don't think means it's opening up all the time. It's still hard and confusing and all sorts of things that make you feel like it's maybe not working and what's going on. But there definitely seem to be the moments of magic that happen for me, when
Yeah.
in this
Oh,
category.
no, definitely. I see what you mean, and I think I would say like the people that are listening, if they feel like, oh, it's not opening up, or it's not it's not working for me the way it's working for you. I think it's always working. You just have to change your perspective on the situation
Yeah,
at hand. That's it. That's all it is, because everything is building you up to be who you are today, and you can
yeah,
only hindsight, as the saying goes, hindsight is 20/20. You can only figure out why it helped you after the fact. But if you were to have that, I guess, mentality in the moment, then everything is an opportunity. Even if you're
Yeah.
going through the worst thing, it's like, all right, this is building up towards something. So I am going somewhere.
Yeah. And, you know, in spirit, the why is this happening for me framework is a really helpful question of thinking about it that way. I'm saying it's saying my internet connection is unstable. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. If you just repeat that last
Okay.
bit that you said.
Uh, the frame of why is this happening for me is a helpful one in that as well. And what that's it's making me think of something I've never really articulated, but I feel like we're getting into the question too of like when is the time to give up, right? Like if something is not opening up for us, like when do we give up on it? And I feel like what that gets to, and in the perspective conversation, really is the importance of self exploration and why am I doing this? Why do I care? Why do I want to do this? Because if it's something that just like I need to share and I need to do, it's like I can't imagine ever giving that up because it's just a very deeply internally motivated thing. And I'm sharing this because I want to keep sharing this and I want to keep doing it. The giving up element really only seems to be in the conversation when it's about money, or should this be the path
Yeah.
that I go for in a financial regard or in a and in that, you know, and I don't know when is the time to give up if that's working or not working. And yeah, I don't know the answer. It came up for me of like, yeah, when do we give up on something like that? And hopefully we're just considering what our motivations are enough to know that if we really love something and care about something, it doesn't matter how well received it is or isn't. We're going to do it, and it might hit that one person and totally change their lives, and that can be everything. But it can be hard to make careers out of this stuff, and maybe that'll happen, and maybe it won't. And let's stay reminding ourselves of the why, and keeping true to that.
Have you ever considered quitting poetry?
Um, I always knew, like, I think, and this is some of because of my approach that I've done other things and have some other income. Like, I've just always known that at least for the foreseeable future, this will be at least a part of my life, like at least a part of something I'm going to continue to write, continue to share. There's just nothing like it. There's nothing that feels so connected and that like just must come out. It's very hard for me to articulate exactly the value proposition that my poetry gives in our world. But I just am certain that it's like this must be like I must share this, I must communicate this. Nothing feels more important. And it's a funny dichotomy of both feeling like literally the most important thing like in the world in many times for me, not like literally, but for me, and at the same time not being too able to articulate exactly why it's so important. And it's both. And so for that reason, for me, I have no doubt that it will be a part of my life for at least a very long time, and sharing in some capacity, I'd imagine, for my entire life will be a
Yeah.
piece of it.
Yeah. I mean, I want to get into I guess the social media side of things, because I know some of your expertise lies on that front. But just to give a bit of a backdrop, if you just share with people, I guess what you studied. I think you went to college, right? You studied at college, and then you went into you had an interaction with Gary Vee, and you know you hung around with him for a while as he was mentoring you. So if you just tell a bit about that story and some of the memorable, I guess, scenes with him.
Sure. So yeah, in college, I studied psychology and economics. I wanted to go to the best academic college where I could play soccer. I found a school called Haverford that was good academically and bad at soccer, and so that was a good fit for me. I went there, like, was kind of coasting a lot of the time, is the truth. But psych was interesting to me. I was like, oh, this is how people tick and work, and I was interested in that. And then I was like, okay, I want to know what I want to do really. Marketing, like, so that's sort of psychology. I guess I'll go into marketing. And I went into social media. I wanted to get an internship marketing for this like healthcare startup, and they were like, "You're young, go figure out social media." And so I did, and this was at the early days of Twitter and of Facebook, and they were having trouble generating leads and making sales, and I was all of a sudden generating quite a lot of leads on social media, and I thought, "Ooh, look, I can be good at this without having to go to school for it. Great, let's go down this path." And I like that was really the driver initially. It wasn't from a very internally motivated place, is the truth. And I ended up getting a job at a place called Anomaly, where I was doing social strategy for Budweiser. That, like, Budweiser saying, hey, what stories should we tell on social media? And at the time, it was just changing little things would skyrocket engagement, and it was easy to be a superstar by making very small changes. And I was met with Gary, and you're frozen. You still hear me?
Yep. Yeah. So you said you met with Gary V.
Through a mutual friend. And I was just saying, like, yeah, the graph is going way up on Budweiser engagement, and they're very happy because the line's going up on the graph. And I'm sort of sitting there being like, is this even doing anything for business? Or are we just super happy that a line is going up on a graph? I was like, is this selling beer? Like, does this work? Like, I'm super curious about it. But I would bring that up and people would be like, no. Like, it's fine. Look, like, the line's going up on the graph. And
How old were you at this time? Sorry.
I was about 22, 23.
Okay, cool. Got you.
And that really resonated. There were, like, Gary said to me at the end of that meeting, he's like, there are a couple of things you said that, like, really made me want to, like, maybe see myself in you and, like, want to mentor you. And he was like, do you want to come work for me? And I was like, I don't know, like, I'm fine. Like, I got my stuff. And I was like, I'm in control of my page. That's pretty cool. He's like, you have to do better than that. And I was like, what? I got thrown off a little bit. Gary's one of the best in-person conversations and emotionally intelligent people that I've ever met. And he offered me a big raise and said, come work for him, and that he would mentor me. And we did that for about a year. I learned tons. Like, he's brilliant. He's just a brilliant businessman, and, like, human, and so socially gifted at understanding people and how to have conversations. And in the first 3 months, just, like, through his philosophy, I learned so much. But, like, one of the funny thing about Gary would be that he would do something, and there's some things he'd do, I'd be like, that feels like way off, or like, why? And then within a year, I'd always understand. Like, within a year, I'd be like, oh, I hadn't yet learned how important that was, and he just already knows all of the things. And it's just that it was a repetitive enough process that I've come to blindly trust his insights and his instincts. But yeah, he really just taught me that the world runs on people, and that, like, net it's relationships and long-term relationships. Like, even as people leave his companies, he's, like, fully invested in, like, great, like, where do you want to go? Can I help you find, like, a new job? Like, how can I be of service to you? Do you want to start a company? I'll invest right now. You work for me, I'll invest in your company right now. And he's just building long-term relationships all the time and playing the long game all the time, and just truly embodies that legacy is more valuable than currency. And it's just, like, it's who he is, and he just wants to help and is doing what he loves, and is a rare breed that I think genuinely does not, like, it gets to him a little bit, but he does not let it affect him, the external opinion. Like, that's so hard on social media, and he's the perfect social media breed because he can do him, and he can hear the feedback and just, like, blinders on and go, and, like, take it in, be like, okay, that's what they don't get, and I need to say this differently, and not let it, like, tear him up. I think that's really hard. I've never met anyone else who can do that. But he's a special breed, and I feel like there's so much to learn from him. Big fan, highly recommend. Check out his stuff, especially for entrepreneurs, etc., trying to learn ways of going about things. I think he's brilliant, and highly recommend him.
I think at this point, every single person's heard of everyone
Yeah,
has heard of him, because he's really
blown. I remember way back when him saying, like, I feel like I should just get a video camera and just let people follow me around all the time and just make that a new content show. And that, and then he did, turned into the Daily V and the things he's doing now. And yeah, he's just ahead of the game. And he's a smart dude, that Gary V. But anyway, I, like, net, I felt like I was selling beer and soap, and that didn't feel fulfilling to me. I met Mickey, I fell in love with startup world, and I wanted to start a social media, or I had a friend who was starting a social media company, thought I would jump in and be a part of that. And then it was my job to try and design notification structures to take you out of your world, bring you into mine. If we could hold your attention for 2 minutes or longer, investors said we had a valuable company. So we were trying to figure out how many notifications should we send you a day? Ooh, if we autoplay videos, we can hold your attention for a little bit longer. Why don't we do that? And just all of our decisions were about how do we hold your time. And it just made me start to realize that we're okay at this. We're a small startup. We weren't even that good. Um, but Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, they are masters at this game of grabbing and holding human attention. And that's what the game is. And that led me towards the work at the Center for Humane Technology.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I know a lot of your work now is intertwined with, or I guess, side by side with poetry, is intertwined with humans and technology, and how the relationship is building between the two. So I guess, what is it that you see that's prominent between the two right now? Like the thing that you're thinking about all the time that you feel, okay, this is the message that I need to share because this is what's currently happening.
Within how humans are relating with social media?
With social media and technology.
I mean, it's just seeped into everything. Like I think you could probably name literally any facet of life. And there are so many nuanced ways that technology has and social media have changed, like just completely changed it. I heard a metaphor recently from Asa, who works with the Center for Humane Technology, of how like we have to fold ourselves into the origami like of this digital world now. Like we are not this digital world, but we have to it has its certain designs and it's like creases, and we have to fold ourselves into those creases. And we've let that take over. We are folding ourselves in every aspect and just accepting these new folds as the normal because they're not that different. They're like, it's not so different from how things used to be, or it's not like these radical shifts, but it's just like a billion tiny shifts in everything that we're doing. And I feel like it concerns me how much we're just accepting it as the new reality, because it sacrifices so many elements of human communication, of human connection, of fulfillment, of like, it's the new normal is how important vanity is, how important like the most outrageous comments are. It's like, we've changed the value system, and we've just let this new value system drive. And I don't think we should. And it's hard to know where to start in rebellion against that because it's so everywhere.
Well, what frustrates you the most about social media today?
What frustrates me the most? I mean, personally, it's that like right now, for the next step in my career as an artist, I need to like, if I want to do these shows that I feel are so feeding and like just feels like the right thing to do, my next step is that I need to build an audience. And one of the most effective means of doing that is social media. And I feel that I don't feel there's a single communication I can make on social media that is honest. Like I don't feel it's possible. I don't know how to truly honestly communicate on social media. It feels like everything is cherry picked in some way, is sharing one side of the story, is being used in some kind of subtly manipulative way of trying to heighten up my brand. And just I love storytelling and I love sharing. I don't like even the things that I'm like, oh, what a great tidbit. Like I can get that across. Like even in the act of getting that across, all these other factors are seeping in. It's so hard to just have any sort of real honest communication in this medium because there's so, like, it's all stacked in this design format that is filled with so many implications. So my biggest frustration right now is I like some of the things that I want are tied to it, and I need to double down on it if I want to like grow my world. And at the same time, it just feels like to do so, I am compromising like my value of sharing honestly. And not that I'm like lying on social media. I'm trying even to like uncover and peel back the curtain, but it just, even in, I do this thing, everything is a lie on social media, and try to show like, here are the ways like this is sort of subtly tricky and dishonest, and to try to uncover that. But even in that, there's more just layers and layers and layers. And so, yeah, I have just a lot of frustrations of feeling like I have to compromise my value of honesty and clarity um, and like, uh, I don't know how to articulate this exactly, but one thing that I've been describing that's been resonating with people is just sort of being on Instagram and then feeling like, oh, like I just don't like the way my friends are representing themselves. It's like I feel this like weird disconnect with them, but not in a big enough way that like we talk about, and then just like the next time I see them, there's like pent up sort of resentment, just like, well, am I supposed to know that I saw this, that you saw this thing, that I saw this thing? Are we pretending that I did or didn't? And like, are you going to tell me about it? Are you not going to tell me about it? Like, well, it's just, there's all this unspoken stuff in our relationships. And in some ways, like, wow, how great, like across the world, I can see in some capacity what's going on. But I think especially with my friends I'm local to, it just like creates this sort of like a lot of unspoken tension if we spend a lot of time on it. And what does that look like with 2 billion people? Just sort of like having little bits of resentment towards each other often. But anyway, I'm ranting a bit, but I have a lot of frustrations with social media. And right now, the one most present is that for business, I really should double down on it and go in and share more and play the game that, quite frankly, I know how to play. And I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good.
So
The process doesn't make me feel good.
yeah, I was going to say, because you've been involved with it since, and maybe not its birth, but definitely from the early days, you know, from before it matured into the beast it is now. So I wondered, in terms of, you know, whether you would do that because you know how to manipulate it, because it goes directly hand in hand with you know, building a brand, because that's what everyone uses nowadays. But as you said, it becomes difficult when you think about, how can I do that authentically? And and at the same time, how can I break through the noise? Because breaking through the noise today seems like it needs to be something that's wild, outrageous, and like, you know, because there's so much content out there, it has to be above all of that, and then the bar gets raised higher and higher and higher. So
and maybe that's a value system we don't need. Maybe we don't have to worry about breaking through the noise. Maybe we can just share. I just like, for me, and I actually noticed this when I started making like friends who had big followings. So, like, I just noticed how like, oh, like I really like wanted to like be in their pictures, like to gain that, like, and I just like would notice that in myself and just be like, ugh, like, and then what is this affecting my relationship with this person? And then is it complicated? Like I have this sort of desire to, and then I was like, oh, it just made me want to just throw it all away. And yeah, it's like, I mean, I'm curious actually if like, I just haven't seen anyone of like, maybe with the exception of Gary, and that's his own thing, but like, who just like shares their life, like their social life on social media, that feels like wow, like I would love to do it like that. Like I've just never I've never seen anything where I'm like, that's the way to do it. Like, yeah, like that's a way of authentically sharing. And because like, even when I'm like, if I'm sharing my social life, like that's fun and I like engaging with my friends that way. But I also, it's like, in many ways it feels like bragging sometimes, of like, oh, these are my friends that I'm hanging out with, and like, look, this is cool, I'm doing this fun thing, and I'm thinking of the person who's scrolling at 3 a.m. in their underwear, like watching that. What is the moment I'm creating for that person? Like, do I want to contribute to that? And that doesn't feel good. And there's so much self-comparison. Like, we're not scrolling through Instagram being like, I feel awesome right now, wow, what are some other awesome people do? It's like, usually this moment of loneliness or boredom is where we go to it. So then like all of our good is just like put in a person's moment of feeling not good. And there's that self-comparison, and then also the feeling of like, I need to go find and do something good and share that. It's like creates this loop for people watching. It's just like, ugh, like that's present for me in anything I share. So there, I just have lots of frustrations, and they're hard to articulate. That was a rant and a
yeah,
half.
it makes sense though what you're saying, because no one's explained it or expressed it in that way, and I think that is maybe how people feel sometimes. But then the overwhelm of, not the overwhelm, but the stronger feeling of, you know, I want attention, or I want to build my brand, you know, no matter what, I'll just put it out there and I'll be as authentic as I can. Maybe not to the degree I feel I should, but just with a little bit of, you know, I know this is going to go viral, or I hope this is going to be popular. So you seem like someone who does a lot of reflection.
Yeah, I do an obsessive amount of reflection. Maybe too much reflection, a lot of overthinking. But I don't like, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm curious for you of like, yeah, I mean, how do you feel about your use of social media? How do you feel about social media yourself? Do you feel like, do you feel what I feel?
I definitely do, and I think that's why I'm so curious about the way that you expressed it, because it's not been articulated to me in that way, and I see that on social media, because I do actively post some of the stuff along my journey, not necessarily have a camera follow me, but the thoughts that I have. A lot of my stuff is in words, because I like writing and speaking, so those are the two sort of forms. But right now, it seems to be a lot of expression through words.
Yeah.
But there is an element of, I'm going to cherry pick the best photo or the best video, or this video wasn't great, let me retake it and do it again, because it needs to be presentable. That's always there. It doesn't matter, because there's 300, 400, 500, 600, 10,000 people that are going to see it, so I better look the best I can. That you can't take that away. That's the probably the
It's
biggest.
human nature
That's
of like,
exactly
oh, like
that's
how do I
exactly it.
look good in this photo? And then also
Exactly.
like, what does that do? What does that do to us on this side of it too? Of like constantly feeling like, oh, this version of like, if I don't throw this filter on or adjust this in the right way, the way that I am is not good enough for presenting to all these people. Like that thought, right? Over and over and over again. Just like the way that I normally am. That's not good enough. Like, oh, I need that right angle where I hit some standard. And like, certainly for me, that's a thought. I think that's a common thought that falls in people's heads of like, I don't, that's how I look and it doesn't look good enough. Ooh, there's that one angle though where it does look good enough. And let me post that. And we have the knowledge that we don't look like that angle all the time. And so how does that emotionally make us feel throughout? And I do know that like posting only with the intention of like, well, will this go viral is a recipe for unhappiness for sure. And if you can, I think like posting and then not looking at the likes and like not watching who's checking it out is, I think, a better way to go. That said, how many people really are capable of not being like, oh, who did they see it? The person I really wanted to see that, did they see it? Did like, how is not checking in and all of that stuff is really hard because it's a very, you know, human pull towards this stuff.
Yeah, no, most definitely is, and it becomes difficult for people to authentically share their brand because of that, of that human nature. But do you think that's ever something that can be overcome?
Like shit, like I've found it. I am authentically sharing my brand and I feel great about it. And this is how I'm doing social media and it feels perfect.
Yeah, without the filter of it has to look, I have to make it look a certain way before I post.
I mean, like I haven't figured it out. I think actually my friend Amber Ray, has been doing something on social media that I think is quite good and been thinking about it in a powerful way. And I recommend checking out her stuff. I think that's like, if you search Amber Rae on Instagram, you'll find her. And Humans of New York, I think, is just brilliant, but that's very curated in its own way. And I think what Gary does is very him, and he's like found his way of doing that. But I mean, I would love. Do you have example? I would love to see examples of people who just like have done it and got it figured out, and like to build a reference of like, here are ways of authentically doing this in a way that is sensitive to the nature of this thing. It's tough, really tough to be sensitive to the nature of this thing.
But then, yeah, no, you're right. It is difficult. But I'm curious. Then, what makes a good storyteller from your perspective?
Like I think you mean on a digital storyteller or a storyteller?
Yeah, a digital storyteller, because that's where predominantly most of the I guess storytelling is done nowadays.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Most of it is done digitally, and what makes a good digital storyteller? Um, what's a good story?
Are you asking me? Is that rhetorical? I
Yeah,
don't know. Oh, okay. No, the reason I asked the question was because you've obviously told the story through Subway Love, which of the first one, fair enough. That's we could say that's potentially authentic because you didn't know if it was going to
I
go
guess no,
viral.
yeah, and I'm scrambling, and I'm not sure what the answer to the question is.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think the best answer that I have is, uh, and this is something that comes to me a lot, and I feel is true, is that just a message is as good as its ability to be received. And so I think to me, a good storyteller is somebody who is able to have the empathy of like of getting past of like, I have this thing and to really think about like, okay, you are where you are not where I am, and I need to get this strange, intangible, fleeting idea or feeling or concept or blah. I need to get the blah from here to you. And the way it is in me might not be the way it is in you. And are you going to, from your perspective, be able to get to that core, that center of the thing that I'm trying to express to you? And the way that I say it may or may not like fit or land. And so like to really try to have the empathy and in some ways self-criticism of like, oh, no, that makes sense to me, but that's not going to make sense to other people. How do I make sure that this makes sense to the person I'm trying? That to me, that's what makes a good storyteller or digital storyteller, is the of this is how, like, their experience, and can I understand their experience and not to know that this is what they need to get there, and how do I give that to them?
Mm. Yeah, no, that makes a
Is
ton of
that
sense.
clear, or is that total
Yeah.
nonsense?
Yeah, no, that makes
Okay, cool.
that makes complete sense. And I think also the people who may not understand it, there's a fine line between maybe you haven't communicated it properly, or in the right package, versus the people who don't understand it are not part of the tribe that are supposed to receive the message. It's the message, because the message isn't going to be for everyone, right? You can't speak to everyone.
Right,
The whole point of a brand is that
right,
it speaks to a collective group, and that becomes the tribe or the fan base, so to speak. So
right. And then actually, I think that's a great point, and I think there's a nice self-awareness to like a message a lot of people could understand. Some messages, not as many people. Like, it's just going to be a much harder thing in this digital environment or period to get through the awareness of the different messages, of thinking of like, okay, like who is this for? Who is this going to really be able to communicate to in a way that I'm capable of communicating it? And to be able to see your own messages and understand which of them might be more, and just like this might take more work to communicate to large groups of people or certain groups of people than others. Um, yeah.
yeah, no, most definitely. And I think the other thing to factor in, which has helped me along my journey, I guess, is, and maybe you share a similar thing, is that when you may feel a little bit fearful of, what will people think about this? Is this the right message I should put out there? Maybe I should make it sound a bit more fluffy. Because you initially, when you're in the creative process, I think that electricity that flows through you, if that's the right word to use, that's the raw thing in the first few seconds before it's like, oh, maybe I should add this to it. You've got the first few seconds where you've captured it just coming through. And if you share that and have the courage to share it, that I guess the mindset that goes behind it that's helped me is that this is not for me, but it's coming through me. So it's not a reflection. I don't care how it makes me look, because it's bigger than me. Like the story that you share through Subway Love and some of the other stuff that you've done, it's not necessarily a reflection of you, but it had to come through you, if that makes sense. So whether people criticize it or not, it's not a criticism of you. It's just the work that had to come through you. So somewhere out there in the world, someone's seen it from the thousands of views that it's got, and it's probably a little light bulb in their mind and changed the direction of their journey. They don't maybe they haven't reached out to you and told you that, so you don't know how much effect it's really had. But then you have had that ripple effect without really knowing it, because you had the courage to think, actually, this is going to help more people than just my popularity, so why don't I just put it out there? And so I guess that's what's helped me overcome the
Yeah.
hurdle of, I look back at some of the podcasts I did, just to take this as an example. Last year, I look absolutely stupid when I look back. I'm like, who was that guy? But I shared it anyway, and I just said, look at the transformation in 1 year, and I can laugh at myself. I'm happy to do that completely, because I don't associate myself, or I try not to have too much attachment to my body, my name, who I am, because I know that's not who I am.
Yeah. And that ripple effect is something I'm getting more comfortable with as an artist too, of like not thinking there needs to be immediate change or transition between something that happens. But yeah, I mean, each of those videos has been viewed at least a couple million times. And to really think that must have effect. It was actually, I was watching like a really stupid video with a group of friends of like some dude who was just like trying a bunch of different drugs and being like, this is the way they combined. And it was like crazy. And I was like and I was like, wow, like 7 people who like I have dear love for and like are people who are going to affect my world and their worlds around them in big ways. Like, we're all sitting together, like, and this is affecting our experience. I was like, if this is affecting our experience, I'm pretty sure my stuff is affecting people's experiences too. And to get comfortable with that. And there are moments where I get more comfortable with social media thinking like, okay, like, let me just think, like, if there's one person who this message like really can help, like, great, like, that's fuck all the other stuff, like, that's reason enough to share, and that's going to be really valuable. And why would I hinder that with all of my other neuroses and other things about this? And I do really believe that that's powerful. It's just then very easy to get addicted to the, like, ooh, like, and I should have another thing that's going to like help a person. What can I come up with that'll help? Oh, maybe that'll help and where the motivation isn't really about helping the person, but is about wanting to share. So trying to keep honest in what our motivation is there.
Yep.
Uh,
So you said
you
keep
back?
honest. Yeah, you said keep honest about what your motivation is.
Yeah, of what our real motivator is. Now you're frozen again, though. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I've got you. Yeah, can you hear me as well? You got me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay.
But I think it might be in and out.
Yeah.
Mm.
Am I there now?
Being true to that motivation of, am I really sharing this because it wants to help people, or am I just wanting the likes? Am I wanting the attention? And if we can keep ourselves honest, then maybe we can share and contribute authentically. But I feel like I think about this way more than most people, and I sure have a lot of trouble with it, which just makes me skeptical that very many people are thinking that deeply, or that sharing that powerfully and authentically without letting that other stuff seep in, because it's so easy for it to seep in. We're only human.
Yeah, no, of course, definitely. And I think I was going to say, through this conversation, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're more of an introvert than an extrovert.
Certainly a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think it takes a certain level of introversion to come up with those sort of things. And I enjoy philosophy. So one of the things that really sticks with me is the unexamined life is not worth living. And I try to look at that for myself to see how far have I come, what have I learned, what's happened so far to get me here, and looking at where other people are in the state of the world today, and where can I go next, and what's the best way to kind of do that. So I end up, I resonate with that, because I end up going into deep states of just reflection and just being on my own. I'm okay to be by myself, and most of the thoughts that I share on social media come out of the fact that when I have a conversation with myself, either through journaling or speaking through recording, or conversations like this, even in the moment, when the energy is right, the right sort of words just flow through. So is there anything you do when you're in the moments of self-reflection? Do you journal? Do you record your thoughts in any shape or form? What does that sort of process look like for you?
Journaling for sure is a process of mine, and I like that message of the unexamined life. I like the seed. It's good because it's actually a perfect, for me, you communicating that to me landed.
Sorry.
And I like that.
Sorry, can you just put the camera down a little bit so we get a bit more? Perfect. Cool. Got it.
You communicating that to me, the seed that you communicated landed, of like, of the unexamined life is not worth living. And the seed that I'm receiving in that communication from you is of like the importance of looking back and reflecting, and like, not just living our lives mindlessly, but really thinking deeply and like about why we're doing what we're doing, so that we can improve and be better and make the most of life. And is that a fair categorization of that?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think that, yeah,
Just to build it build for a moment. Then what I think is interesting is that then the phrase "the unexamined life is not worth living" to some audiences, I would say want to add all life is worth living. That there is no life that is not worth living, sort of depending on how different people, or how certain super extroverted people who don't like to think a lot and just want to live and not, and just like kind of feel and be in their bodies, and trying to diminish the amount of offense that might be taken, that might prevent that kernel and beautiful seed that you planted from landing. I just felt like it was like sort of a meta exercise in the things we were talking about, and might feel cool to call that out.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I mean, it's a good twist you put on it there, because some people, as you said, who lean towards a more extroverted side of their personality would maybe not find that message as pleasant as those who are more introverted, but only because they don't take so much time to do that work. And I think that everyone has a lean towards introversion, extroversion in some shape or form, depending on, how you express yourself, how much of yourself you express. But again, another thing that Aristotle talks about is the balance is found in the mean. That's the golden mean, which is the balancing act of both things. You can't be on one extreme and on the other extreme, because at some point you're going to have some sort of imbalance in your life where you feel like there's something missing. So it's not about right or wrong, but a balancing act of both. So those people who are maybe extroverted shouldn't take that to offense. So maybe it may not be your job to say, let me try and cover the offensiveness that it may portray to them, but for them to be humble enough to say, what does this actually mean for me? What should I be doing with this message, instead of just writing it off straight away?
Yeah. So that's like, and I love that, because if you and I are sitting, or if we're in a room with people, and like we're sitting with maybe some extroverts, let's say, and obviously like what you said was not offensive, like in the slightest, just for the record.
Yeah.
But just like, but if we were sitting in a room with, let's say there are people who were offended by it, we would work through it, and like it would be like, oh, it would come clear, we'd all get on the same page. On the internet, we don't have that kind of feedback from the people who don't. Only the most outraged and angry of like, how dare you say some life is not worth living, like maybe they comment, but most people just sort of read, make some kind of internal thought or judgment, and move on. And we don't get that middle ground of actually working through it and understanding each other. And so this is my frustration with the internet, is that I'm with you, and it shouldn't be our job to like stop every possible way of misunderstanding or offense, but the process of offense in our bodies is such a powerful rejector of like, well, fuck that guy. Like, well, no, like, what is that? Like, that just stops us from being able to understand each other, or from being able to empathize with each other. That I feel like it becomes our job as communicators to try and ease all of the different possibilities of offense. And that, yeah, and then we're in this impossible battle, and we're back to, how the heck do we share on social media? Can't I just share the brilliance? And great, that was it.
And then you
But,
don't end up
I didn't
sharing.
think about this community that actually that maybe is really offensive too, and that was a mistake, or just like, it's just very, yeah, and you don't end up sharing, and then okay, don't end up sharing, and it's just this, there's a lot of mediocre choices.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it's interesting because I think, I haven't really heard people talk about social media in this sort of manner. It's usually, it's the best place to build a brand. Go and do it, share as much as possible. It's not, they don't really go behind the surface of that conversation.
Right. Yeah, I'm super interested in that conversation, the like the nitty gritty of the sharing.
Yeah, no, most definitely. So just to, I guess, wrap this up with the final few questions. The first of which I ask pretty much everyone is, if you had a microphone and the whole world could hear you, what would be the message you'd share with them?
I really, I think you and I see the world similarly in some ways, and what comes to mind right now is just like, is two things. One, that sometimes it's really hard being a person. Like sometimes it's really hard and frustrating, and there's pain and there is struggle, and that's a part of the experience. So sometimes it's really hard, and that's okay. And two is just, there's so much beauty if we can learn how to look at it, if we can step outside of ourselves and figure out how to pay attention. And we can't do it all the time. I want to do it all the time. Can't do it all the time. Can't always see how, oh my God, and live in that state of awe. But understanding that it's there, and that it's a process of flowing in and out of the magic of existence, and that sometimes it's hard being a person, and we have to have the hard being a person and go into the depths, but that it's there, and that there's just perfect, deep, incredible, magical beauty surrounding us all of the time. And it's a matter of figuring out how to look at it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what feels present for me right now.
No, I love that, because it just comes back to the importance of doing, personal work, asking those bigger questions like, who the hell am I? And I guess starting from there, you start to look into, well, what does my body do? What's the point of it? Why does this function this way? And then the curiosity builds and builds and builds, and you end up uncovering layers of yourself and of your psyche, the way that you may not have been taught to do by your parents or school. And that's where the personal development world, part of it anyway, can help. So I'm glad that you're on that journey, because it seems like obviously
Oh, for sure.
through some of the work
And
you've done.
actually, one thing I'd love to share too, because that made me think of it, was something I read in a book called Stealing Fire, which actually the tone of which really bothered. It was like, oh, it's hard to listen to this guy, but there was some good information in there. Was not thinking of the mind like a tool, but like a toolbox. Because I think like if especially you and I as introverts and overthinkers, it can be very easy to just like try and think our way through every problem, when sometimes like thinking our way through a problem might be trying to treat everything like a hammer, and just like when not everything is a nail. Versus like, when is it right to feel into a problem? When is it right to like just release and not think and be? When is it right to like act up the exercise parts of our brain, but to really think of our minds not just like a tool, but a toolbox, or like a dashboard, not an app, but a dashboard, was a really cool insight for me that I feel like might be fun for other people to hear as well.
Definitely. No, I agree. There's many elements to your brain, to your mind, to your psyche, that you can pick and choose when you need to use it. But we haven't been shown or explained to what the different tools are that we have. So there isn't, everything looks the same to us, because we
Right.
haven't been given the lens to understand, actually, I've got this, and this. For example, in school, you're taught memory. That's it. Memory, memory, memory. What about imagination? That's out the window. That's another one. Then you've got reason. And then, I can't remember the rest of them off the top of my head, but
Yeah,
there's so many
no,
other
all sorts of
faculties.
different tools to use in the toolbox.
Exactly. No, it makes sense. I'm glad you shed some light on that. But what would you say is the biggest lie that we're being told right now?
The biggest lie that we're being told right now. The biggest lie that we're being told. Nothing comes to mind. I mean, where my mind goes, it's like, told by who?
Yeah, I should have known to ask you a better question, because you just probably thought of it in about 1,500 ways.
No, but told by who? I'm curious. Told by who?
Society. That's probably what I meant when I said that.
Who's society?
Oh, here we go.
Another call,
we
another time.
could. I could literally indulge in this conversation for hours, but
Actually, I have to run.
yeah, no, I know. So, but no, if nothing comes to mind, fair enough. There doesn't have to be an answer. I was just curious to know what different people's perspective on that is. So, I mean, one interesting thing actually someone said, which caught me off guard, was the biggest lie that we're being told is the ones we tell ourselves. So I was like, okay, I'm going to sit with that for a long time. But
I
yeah,
like that.
but no, the final question is, when all is said and done, what's the legacy you hope to leave behind?
I hope to have helped people see the world around. I mean, really, to see the world around them, see themselves, and to see each other. Like to really see the God in themselves, in the world around them, and in each other. And to help shift perspective in ways that make that possible.
That's amazing. Yeah, I guess from all the work that you've done, you're definitely doing that. The ripple effect is happening. If you may
Thank
or
you,
may
brother.
not notice it.
I appreciate that reflection. I live in a constant state of self-doubt.
No, definitely. No, it is because watching some of the work that you've shared, even though it's only partial work, it's very uplifting in a unique way. So I'm glad that you're able to put it out there without too much filtration, because you may think, oh, it wasn't the best of work. As you said, you doubt yourself all the time, but from an outside perspective, before we had this conversation, before I got to know you properly, it is work that does touch the heart. So I can only imagine what it's doing for people halfway around the world. So I'm thankful and grateful that you shared it. You had the courage to do that, and you continue to do that. And I most definitely look forward to having a part 2 for this.
Beautiful. Looking forward to that too. It was great to meet you. I'll talk to you soon.
Most definitely. Just before we wrap up, what's the best place for people to find out more about you and your work if they want to delve into that?
So www.wordsthatmove.com, and I'm at Max Stossel on all of the social media handles if you want to watch me have all this internal turmoil over how the heck to use them.
Amazing. Thanks, bro. Speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.